And of course, all of you also may have come across such patients, right? So let me start. Right. So these are a few stories which I'm going to start my lecture with. First one is a newborn baby who is found to have atypical genitalia. Now, we use the term ambiguous genitalia. Now the accepted term is atypical genitalia. So when you look at the genitalia, you can't define whether they are male or female, right? So you all of you know what it is. There's a confusion because by norms, categorize human beings or any animal as male and female. When you can't decide it, and the prime side is the appearance of the genitalia. So when it is what to do. Then there's another story of a 9-year-old boy who is brought by his parents as advised by his teachers. He cannot stand and pee. So when he's urinating, he has to sit and, right? Not that as a cultural thing, but he cannot. So this has been happening in the school. The teachers have noted and they have spoken to the parents, and they knew it, but they didn't want to. But on examination, he had a scrotum, but a very small piece. So what to do? Then another child, a 6-year-old boy, was admitted with an obstructed hernia, inguinal hernia, and the hernia sac contained structures resembling uterus and the tubes. What is it? Then another story is of a 5-year-old girl, structures histologically resembling testes in her inguinal sac. Then we may have heard of children who are born as boys and brought up as boys, and suddenly during their teenage, during puberty, they change to girls. So this is a few of several examples. I'm not going to discuss one and the causes of this, but I'm going to give you an overview, right? So none of these will have typical features. Each one is a spectrum. Each one will have their own spectrum. So first, I will discuss about the pathophysiological causes of this. But more importantly, I wanted you all to be open to think about these people and consider them as special and try to help them whenever you can. Right? Because as I told you, it's an unspoken story. We don't talk about them. We don't talk about their challenges. Right? So first, determination of sex. All of us know sex is determined at the time of fertilization. So the normal pattern is for the male, a father will have an XY chromosome, one of his sperm, the gamete. Some gametes will have one X and the other will have a Y. Whereas the female or the gametes will have X, both gametes X. So when they fertilize, we get XX or X. That's a normal thing. Then that is not the end of the story. So then we come to the other differentiation. So in a female where the chromosomes are X, so then the Mullerian system develops. The ovaries, the primary gonads are there, and the Mullerian system develops. The female external genitalia develops, and the brain also has certain feminization which takes place to hormones and other. If you look at the male differentiation, there are several genes identified, right? But one of the main genes is the SRY gene, sex determining region, the Y chromosome. Short arm of Y chromosome, there's a gene which is a sex determinant. Why do we see sex determination? That gene of the testis develops. Testis determining factor, and the testis develops. Testis produces testosterone, which is essential for the development of Wolffian duct, which produces the epididymis and the ducts and all the other things, right? And also testosterone is the prime of external genitalia, like the penis and the thickness of the scrotum. And of course, it is testosterone also causes the brain to have some masculine features, right? Then we have another thing called Mullerian inhibitory factor. We have heard about that. So what is the Mullerian? I told you the Mullerian system which develops ovaries and uterus and tubes. So when that inhibitory factor which is found in male it will inhibit the development of the Mullerian structures. The sexual identity of a person is not simply the X and Y chromosomes. There are some genes. Some of these genes are in the sex chromosomes. Others are found in other chromosomes. Right? Further. So now we'll see one by one. Yeah. So what is the first determinant? The primary determinant is the chromosome makeup, karyotype. The second one is the gonadal differentiation, and as I told you, several factors, not only the X and Y chromosome, other factors play a role. Then maternal and other hormones exposure, fetal exposure. A very good example is the congenital adrenal hypoplasia, where the baby's adrenal cortex produces excess of adrenal androgens. So that will cause a virilization of the fetal genitalia. Right? Then appearance of external genitalia, not only hormones or the chromosomes, but other congenital abnormalities, midline deformities, causing effects the scrotal or penile development. Hypothalamic setup, hypothalamo-pituitary gonadal axis is important so that those things can affect assignment at sex at birth. Let's say the first child which of genitalia is critical, and the parents decide to bring the child as a certain sex. So that will also determine our identification of that child as a boy or a girl, right? Not only the chromosome. Then pubertal hormones, those are the ones develop the secondary sexual characteristics. Remember what the secondary sexual characteristics are. The breast development in female, and in the male, the hair, axillary hair, the thinning of the voice, and so on. So those are pubertal hormones. If there is some problem in the pubertal hormones, then there may be some problem in the sexual development. Sexual identity. So how some person identifies himself or herself. Now, this is another topic, right? But we may have heard of transgender, which I'm not going to speak of. Where the chromosome makeup, the external genitalia, everything conforms to a certain sex, but that person identifies himself as the other sex, right? So a man may at some point in time say, not just in some point of time, gradually develop things that I want to be a female. I am a female by mind. So that is the identity. So those things also, they are not a joke or some illness. Those have to be identified and addressed, right? Then the gender role. So what is the gender and what is sex? So sex is biological discrimination. So you look at the physical appearance, you look at the function, and but gender is something sociologically accepted behavior. So a mother, right? So a child may not have a mother, so father may take gender role of a mother, or a grandfather or grandmother. The gender role is different, right? So that also gender of a person, right? Okay. Now we'll come to disorders of sexual differentiation. Days now, even though I name my lecture as Intersex, is actually currently not an accepted term. So the accepted term now is disorders of sexual differentiation. Yes. So what is it? Means in normal sexual differentiation, final form of sexual structure is consistent with the chromosomal system. That is a normal difference. So if there's an aberrance, there's some difference, there's an ambiguity, some difficulty in determining, then we call it disorders of sexual differentiation, right? So the integrity of several genes, X and Y chromosome, as well as genes in the other chromosomes, are essential for this sexual genitalia and gonadal development, right? Now that's one. SRY we already spoke of. SOX9, so Wills tumor is a good example. It's in chromosome 11, but it gives rise to ambiguous genitalia, right? So like that, not only the X and Y chromosomes, other chromosomes also have genes which may affect the development of the genital, right? Then we come intersex, as I told you, though I title it's not no longer used. And ambiguous genitalia also has been replaced by the term atypical genitalia. Now, this is a small picture of the development of genitalia during fetal life. So you can see the common structure is it's the same such structure. Then under the influence of the hormones, one develops into the male genitalia and the other one develops into the female. So you can see if something goes wrong down the way, can very well develop a different genitalia. Even if the chromosome setup is XX, that person also can develop genitalia which is like this, and the other way around, right? So it is a sort of a spectrum from here to here and here to here, right here, right? So you have to remember. So it is not a magic or some miracle, but it is down the development way it can happen. So I'm not going to go into the detail, but usually when the genital tubercle is there, urethral fold, right? So the same structure develops as here and here labia major, like that. You can see the similar structure and the embryological development. Now I will just go through the types of DSDs, developmental disorders of sexual development. 46 chromosome DSDs, 46 XY DSDs, and ovotesticular DSDs, right? So 46 people will have XX, have a female karyotype, another one is a male karyotype, and ovotesticular mostly have XX, sometimes they may have XY also. So just quickly going through XY DSD. So these are disorders of testicular difference. You can see a whole lot of abnormalities which can cause problem in the testicular difference. Deletion of short arm of XY chromosome. That is the SRY, sexual sex determined region in the Y. So that gene, if it is not there, even though XY, as I told you, can develop into a girl. Dennis-Drash syndrome with tumor, right? So that's another one. Nephrotic congenital. So that's from pediatrics. Those who are studying pediatrics will be familiar with that syndrome. Vega syndrome, another one. Campo-Melic syndrome, where there's a dwarfism and a sex reversal. Right? Reversal is complete reversal. If you go to the internet and look for pictures, you find no differentiation. They will have complete females will be there, but their chromosomes will be XY. Then pure gonadal dual syndrome. Again, complete sexual reversal. Development of vagina, uterus, and everything, but the chromosome setup is 46. Gonadal atypicity. So when the gonads, the testes are not there, phenotypically they may look male, but the testes and may have problems. The hormone, Leydig cells. Yeah, so Leydig cells produce testosterone. If it's not there, can happen. Lipoid adrenal hyperplasia is a form of AH, and 3-beta hydroxylase deficiency. That is now usually CAH is a classic. 21 hydroxylase is a classic. Now 3-beta is not the classic one. That is also a congenital adrenal hyperplasia, but they are feminization, right? So there are so many things. Cause feminization of the male genital. Then persistent Mullerian syndrome. Here, 100% boy is okay, but Mullerian structures also have developed, probably due to the absence of the Mullerian hormone, right? Then affecting androgen action. Dihydrotestosterone is the active form of testosterone. Now, sometimes in an enzyme deficiency, alpha hydroxylase deficiency, final form of testosterone is not formed. So there is problem in masculinization, right? Partial and complete androgen insensitivity. Even if there is testosterone, the end organs are insensitive. The receptors are at fault. This person will like complete like a girl, right? But here Mullerian structures are not. So each one has its by looking at the genitalia, you cannot determine what is the pathology. You have to do all this investigation to determine the cause. With the 46XX BSD, so here CH is common one, maternal other androgens. Sometimes mothers may have adrenal cortex tumors, androgen secreting tumors, which can affect the child, or fetal androgenesis, aromatase deficiency, that's a lack of estrogen. So aromatase is an enzyme which final form of the estrogen. So if that is not there, the feminization is not occur. Then glucocorticoid receptor mutation, that is another case, right? Then there is another thing called ovotesticular DS. Here, karyotype is 46XX, but a part of the Y chromosome, probably SRY gene, seen in X, one of the X chromosomes. So what happens? The gonads will have features of both ovaries as well as testicular structure. When I found it, so you can see here, this is the microscopy. Here you can see the typical testicular histology, and this side has the ovarian testicular. So he has given the 18-month-old baby, ambiguous genitalia, 46 karyotype. The bilateral, bipolar, or test. Intersex, right? Now, this is another problem we may see, appearance of breast in males, that is called gynecomastia. So physiologically, boys may get gynecomastia. Neonatal period, there is girls and boys may have breast development due to maternal estrogen, which is also after a few days. During puberty also, boys develop breast. Around 14 years, some boys may have breasts, but it is more prominent in obese boys. So the cause, the reason is not very clear, but no treatment is needed. It's usually resolved. Right? Then there may be pathological causes. Exposure of exogenous androgens or estrogens. So if androgens can cause gynecomastia, estrogens. So if sports, they are exposed to androgens and all, they may get this gynecomastia. So some drugs study classically meticonazole, and then of course various forms of BSD also can cause gynecomastia. So usually there's no treatment needed, but in extreme cases they may use aromatase inhibitors like tamoxifen, and sometimes surgery to reduce the breast tissue also is. Now, as medical professionals, what are the challenges we face? Right? So once you see an atypical genitalia, or if you see somebody with abnormal genitals, what we do? Right? Our challenge, first we have to see whether there's a potentially life-threatening condition underneath. The congenital adrenal hyperplasia, we know a person can suddenly collapse and die, or whether they have a nephroblastoma. So that is one challenge we have to look at. Then the bigger challenge is deciding on the gender of upbringing and the timing of assigning sex. Now, you may not be able to assign sex at the very beginning, because if the child grows up to be something else, we are in a big problem. So that is a greater challenge, I see, not only for the medical people, but also for the child. Then marriage and relationship. So it's very important. Okay, what's the future for this person when he grows up or when she grows up? Can they have marital relationship? That's another challenge. So what are these are the challenges we have, and how do we manage? Of course, a multidisciplinary team is needed. Pediatric endocrinologist plays a big role, and the adult endocrinologist also. Plastic surgeon, because these people may need surgery to fashion their genitals to whatever sex they're going to assign. Psychiatrists and psychologists can understand the psychological stress this person and this family is going to go, right? Because we say God created man as man, woman. Now this child doesn't carry, we don't know what it is. So it is a very stressful situation, right? There was a case I read. The father was humiliated. So the community said this is the faults of the father. That is why this child has born like this. And the father became depressed and wanted to commit suicide. So you can think not only the affected person, the family is also affected. So they need very strong psychiatric support. And of course, long-term follow-up, because we don't know how this person is going to become, right? I will tell you two more stories so that with that we can finish. So reassign. So at the birth, we assign a sex. Then after the child goes, we may decide, or the child may decide, I want to change this. Right? So that things we know this can happen. So if you have a knowledge, then we should prepare the parents for such things, right? So those are the medical person's challenge. What are the challenges for the individual? The social stigma. So not so much in our country. We don't sort of stigmatize and punish them, although we don't accept that much. But you know, in India and all, these type of people are pushed away and they are forced to marginalized. They will go into prostitution and get involved in criminal activities because they are not accepted in the society. They may have difficulty in fitting peer groups. So do I go and play with the boys, or do I play with the girls? And they will get bullied, right? And physical and sexual abuse by the family or other people is also common, right? So those are the challenges. So I heard a nice story from one of my colleagues. He said he was seeing a person, a monk, for depression. So why he is so depressed? So ultimately, for some reason, he had to examine this person. He found that he had a very small penis. What the parents have done is, when the child was small itself, they have gone and ordained him and now sent them, so that it is in a way not wrong, because that way he will not be found out and he can almost go unnoticed. But actually the psychological aspects have not been addressed. But there may be the ways that the different families cope up, which we don't know. So that's the untold story. So what is happening to all these people? Are they depressed? Are they committing suicide? Or are they doing something illegal? We don't know, right? So what are the challenges for the individual and the, right? Okay, what are the facilities available for these people? Care available in Sri Lanka? So as far as I know, I spoke to endocrinologists also, there is no specific clinic for these people because the number is low and there are no experts to sort of be all over the place. But LRH, of course, when I was a registrar, and I know any other people who have worked in LRH, we will see a large number, and a significant number comes from the east. So I have noticed that come from the east. So that means we are not seeing many people. They are hidden from us because they go there. But can they always go there? So they may have to go on several stages for care, right? Maybe for the hormone therapy, maybe for surgery. So we are not actually, I think we are not catered. We are not empowered to do that yet, because it has not been identified and right? But I was glad to hear that the transgender clinic have started. Like sometime 5 years ago, the government, the NOI Medical Association, issued a circular to conduct transgender clinic in major hospitals. So transgender means, as I told you before, they don't have disorder of sexual development, but they have I don't know whether you call it a psychological thing, but they have a strong feeling, they have a strong urge to change into the other sex, right? So there may be men and there may be women. So during childhood and teenage and the early adulthood, they will definitely decide that I'm not going to be a woman or like a woman, right? So that sort of clinic is there, and I found out about that. So they give they prepare them, they help the person to know what they really want, and they will they will give at least 1 year for the person to decide. They will give all the options and they will be discussing, counseling, and at that one point they say, no, I'm going to change. Then the endocrinologist gets involved and they can give the hormones and all, this plastic surgeon. So that is a different category. But for these people with the developmental disorder of sexual development, there's no such clinic. But I suppose if we really come across these patients, we can police or we can speak to psychiatric people and sort of direct them so that they will get all the support they need. Right? Before that, the person will have to train how to deal with these people. What are their stresses? Right? What are we going to offer to them? All those things. So we need to be addressed. So other than this, other hospitals remain as referring centers. So identify these patients or these individuals, and they may investigate to a certain extent to make sure that they don't have CH or something, and we refer to a senior pediatric endocrinologist or endocrinologist clinic. Then they could follow up. But poor patient from distant place, after some time, decide not to go. Parents may have other things to do. They have other children to look after. So that thing can happen. So we should think of catering and motivating them, follow up at least the management given by the endocrinologist for these endocrinologists, not only endocrinologists, the team. So they decide, everyone gets together, the patient, right? What is the outcome? Now I'll come to the story. So this is a case report from Germany, right? So in the mid-1960s, a child is born with phenylagenesis, right? So that could be due to some genetic problem, whatever. There's a bipartite scrotum. So you can imagine no penis and scrotum is divided. So it looks like a girl, right? So this is out of the blue, like 5 normal children and the 6th child is like this. So the both parents must have it a bit advanced in age, right? So because of this female-looking genitalia, the child was given a female. Then they went and did and found out the karyotype is 46X5. So then what they did at 16 months of age, they changed the name. So they have not put the name, some male version of the same name was given. And at 16 months old was registered as a male in the registry of births, right? So then what happened? And based on the anatomical finding and everyone got together and thought this genitalia looks like female. It is better for this child to develop as a girl. So we will do a surgery and penile reconstruction is very difficult. Therefore, we will bring this child as a girl. Right? So at the toddler stage, she went reassignment, and then they started treating, taking measures to make her a girl. Right? So according to the notes of that child, thorough psychotherapeutic preparation was done for the small child, and then they have done a surgical, all in good mind, right? They didn't want to hurt this child, but at that time, everyone got together and thought this child better grow up as a girl. So psychotherapy preparation, underwent surgical preparation, the urogenital sinus and urethral inside. So they created some sort of vagina, and whatever testes that child had were removed. Now, there is a that these undecided testes and all these things can develop into malignancy. But looking at the story, we wonder whether it would have been better for the child to have had these testes, right? Then at the time of discharge, that is small, the notes say that not fully overcome the ambivalent condition. So we are still, they are not sure, they are not 100% sure that it's good. So they decided time. By the 10th year of life, the child started expressing features not conforming to a girl. So now this is I know actually. So even though that boy was prepared as genitalia operated and bringing up, then this child wanted to 10 years means they play with their same sex. No? So they mean she play with the boys and she boyish appearance, playing soccer with boys. I'm not saying girls should not play soccer, but she wanted to be with the boys. Right? And then even though she was given a girl's name, she used a sort of a vague name. Right? Now we have names now like say Supriya, Sakti and all. Those names we can use for both sexes. So I suppose she took such a name. And also she wanted to become a motor car mechanic from a very young age. Right? And then what happened then at that clinic around 10 years, now they have started, now we are nearing puberty, now they have started to give the estrogens and all. At that time, the child thought, now I come from a village, so yes, I have to become a girl, so I want to. But then at that time, the child had verbally said, I don't want to own this hormone substitution. But anyway, at that time, they thought it is important for her to develop female pubertal changes. So therefore, estrogen and those things were given. Then after some time, the child did not come to clinic, of course, because it's against the wish and it's against the person's heart, right? The person now wants to be, it's not thinking like a girl, right? Right. However, during teenage, during puberty, now she's brought up as a girl now, so she has girl friends, but she didn't like it much. She also felt that she was attracted to females. So you can imagine the amount of stress that person would have undergone. When adolescents couples, boys and girls going out together, she also became depressed. The long period, she was depressed. But then there was a positive feature here. She was a good musician. She excelled in that. Maybe she put all her energy into that. So she joined the orchestra and became a mainstay. She became an important person in the orchestra. Right? Then what happened? So after that, she was very good in her studies. She did well, and she finished a motor mechanic training. She became a motor mechanic. Right? However, then she grew up towards the late teenage or something. She decided it's enough. Stopped going to the hospital at all. So probably from that time, she had been received. If you go on giving estrogens, she will very well develop breast and female contour and everything. So she stopped going to that. Because I decided to change her sexual identity. So by 20 years, she said, I want to be a man. So they have gone and tried the mammoth reduction, remove the breast. So then at the time they changed the name in the registry. Right? See what a complicated story for a person to have. So after they changed the registry, then probably she had good friends, right? So maybe some got of 24, a long time friend got married. Then what happened? Then now he has become a man. He has married to a woman, and they were thinking of adopting children and all sorts of things there. So now we know the importance of those tests, right? So story ends, they lived ever after, but you know, it's not a simple story, right? So in Germany, with all that support, they have done all these things. So it was a case study. So I think so the person who wrote this article says findings and retrospective consideration demonstrate the need for careful differential activities in diagnostic workup. Because earlier they said that they have done the psychological tests and decided she wanted to become a girl at a toddler age, right? All of us who have children, how difficult it is, right? Boys play with dolls, girls may play with cars. That doesn't mean that they are going to be like that forever. So the prudent thing would have been to let them grow. That is time to decide, right? So sexual approaches to sexual assignment. So they don't have to hurry to give a sexual assignment. And sometimes even if we carefully do, we have to reassign. To manage patients and families. Right? The one thing I did mention here, sorry, story would go a long story. This person also had a current urinary tract infection to some other problem. It's an anatomical problem, not so much. So because of that anatomical abnormality of the probably of the what you call the mesoderm or whatever, he had problem in the kidney and had undergone current UTI. So that was another reason for the child to come back to the hospital again and was caught and given the hormone probably. That's my imagination. Right. So that is that story of that person. In this story, I have told it in other places also. This is of a girl called Adil, a lady called Adil, right? One was the client child client sex Y. So they have X plus Y. So when they were born, the child had male genital. Yeah. So they were happy because they already had two daughters. So they were bringing this child as a boy. But this child, of course, wanted to be a boy, wanted to be a girl, right? So, and he sounded and acted effeminate because a boy fight all effeminate, playing with other girls, and so on, right? So this person also had a very tough time. Actually, how years to be a female, then this person has become a female. I mean, taken a, this is what we call a female gender role. So Adil decided to turn her attention to the answer project called Silverfish for Homeless and Drug Addicted Intersex People. Right? So that is what I do. This kind of children or people are usually found in antisocial behavior. Right? So because of the genetic stuff, or it's because they have been marginalized. Both can be because they have a tough time. They have male genital. When they are growing up, then sudden breasts are coming and no voice change. So what is the confusion, right? They don't society and they can become criminals. So and they can get drug addicts. So it's strong. You have to appreciate her. She has fought. She has made a decision and she's helping a lot of people. So this is not very long ago. It is like 2011. So that's it. I am end of my lecture. So all I want, why I took this topic is for us to think of these people like as human beings. So to the needs and feelings of others. So nowadays, some cases you see male, female, and other. Because some people may not like to be called a man or woman, because then we have to accept that. So let us not try to do the correcting by the society. So we have to take a child who has an atypical genitalia, decide this person is a boy or a girl. But we will be sensitive to the needs and aspiration of the young person. To allow them to develop and help them to make a decision which side they are going to go. Okay? So that is the message. So if I have been able to convey that message to you, I am happy. Right? By the way, I am not an expert on transgender or this, but something intriguing. I think it's a much neglected thing. That is why I can answer a few questions. Aksha? Thank you again, Dr. Arunmoli and the BMA team for giving me this opportunity.
Hello, madam.
Yeah.
There were many registrars. so you can ask questions to Madam. Are there any questions in the chat box, Madam?
Uh, there was appreciation
Ah,
from my friend Valerman. Okay, I think we will allow them to think about it.
Okay. So in the absence of further questions, I would like to thank you, Dr. Angela Prakasam, for the nice presentation. Thank you so much, Madam. And so we would like to see you all in the next week. Madam, thank you so much for your time.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Lakshan. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Thank you. Good night.